So welcome everyone, old faces and new, to the October full moon meditation, which is today in place of our normal Tuesday evening meditation here at the Meditation Centre in Woking, Surrey in the UK, for those of you who are tuning in from different places around Europe or beyond that. So I'm going to start by giving a little bit of a run-through of the basics of meditation for those of you who are new, and especially as the full moon this year coincides with World Mental Health Day, then a lot of people are interested in meditation for the reasons of their own satisfaction to do with their mental well-being. So this is where we start. So meditation and mindfulness are being proposed as an antidote to the way in which we tend to lead our lives in the present day, which is often with our attention on everything else but ourselves. The way life seems to be designed these days is that there is a constant stream of things competing for our attention from the things around us, people in our lives, or even the media around us, or just the way we fill our day without any gaps in between to come back to ourselves. It's all very well being attentive to the things around us, but at a certain point, if we focus our attention on nothing but the things around us, then we end up feeling depleted of mental energy by the end of the day. And you would think it's so exhausting that you would just get straight to sleep afterwards, but often it stirs up so much energy in your mind of the wrong sort that it's even hard for us to get a rest by sleeping more. So meditation and mindfulness are being proposed as a way to reposition or relocate where our awareness habitually gets caught up and bring it back to a place within our body, with the principle that if body and mind are in the same place, so notice I'm not talking about the brain here, but rather our awareness in place of the mind. If body and awareness are in the same place and in balance, then the mind starts to get a chance to recharge itself and replenish itself and get back to where we need to be. On a deeper level, it makes a connection with who we are and how we make meaning in our own lives as well. So it does a lot of things on many different levels, and depending on what has attracted you to meditation in the first place, then probably in there somewhere is what you are interested in. There is a place within the body where it's particularly effective to bring the mind to rest, and it's down at the level of our diaphragm within the body. The reason why it's there and not up in our head or our brain somewhere is that it's actually the center of gravity for the body. So it's quite a grounded place for the mind to be, not up with our thoughts in our head, but down in a place that's central to us. If you were a tightrope walker, then that would be the point you need to have over the rope at all times, rather than your head, for example. So how do you get your mind to be where you want it to be? And the way we normally recommend for beginners in meditation is to conjure up some sort of picture or feeling in the mind, as if you had an object which you have conjured up in your mind. It can be something you see, like a bright star, or like the sun shining, or it can be the feeling that you have such an object within you. And you take that imaginary object and you bring it down in your imagination to that point at the center of yourself. And for as long as you can keep your mind with the object, then your mind will be focused within your body. What tends to happen with those who are new is that the mind will wander off onto other things, in which case you just bring it back again to the object. If the object disappears, you can conjure up a new one. And it may be that your comfortable place might not be exactly at that point. You can just go to wherever it feels comfortable for you. But that is a good example of a place to start. Some people also have to deal with a lot of thoughts in the mind as well, and generally speaking, if you ignore the thoughts, pay the thoughts no attention, then they will get less on their own. But if you have a particularly heavy dose of thoughts which you are trying to deal with in order to rest the mind or to quieten down the mind, then you may find a traditional mantra useful to you, in which case I can recommend the Indian words Samma Arahang, which you would hear passing through your mind over and over again, almost occupying the verbal channel of the brain in a way that doesn't let random thoughts come up quite so easily. So you might try that mantra, or you might try one of your own, substitute that in, any affirmation or something from your own religious tradition that is meaningful to you can be substituted in. But having some sort of words passing through the mind in that way will act as a sort of thought blocker if thoughts are what you are having to deal with. Apart from that, normally we sit cross-legged if we're sitting on the floor, usually half lotus position, with one foot up on the calf of the other leg. Or if we're sitting on a chair, then we just try to sit with our back fairly straight. Generally, support for the back is okay up to a certain level. Generally, we go to level of the small of our back. Beyond that, we tend to get a little bit sleepy if we are not careful. And the way we put our hands together, ideally, would be with the right hand on top of the left hand, and the index finger of the right hand would go up against the thumb of the left hand, and the hands just rest palm upwards in the lap. But again, if that feels uncomfortable at any point, you can always change position. But the idea is that if you do get sleepy, then your finger slips and gives you a little bit of warning that you are napping on the job. Yes. So generally, any meditation consists of the first 5 minutes relaxing the whole of our body, doing a body scan. The next 5 minutes will be to do with relaxing our state of mind, and only then do we do this exercise with focusing on the internal object and using the mantra if we need to. Today's meditation is a special session which I have recently concocted to help people sleep better. So if you are an insomniac, then you will probably be able to learn something from this meditation. Generally, the idea of meditation is not to go to sleep, but you can use meditation to calm yourself down in preparation for sleep. So that's the theme of the meditation, which I will lead you through today. And because it's the full moon, we have a little candle lighting activity halfway through, so usually it will be at about 10 to 8 or so. We can, if we are not too deep in our meditation, come up, light the candles, which today are in a lotus design to do with the self-compassion theme for and empathy for tonight's full moon. And after you've lit the candles, you can return to your place to finish off with the loving kindness meditation. So that would probably bring us to about 8. Yeah. So if you'd like to make yourself comfortable for some meditation now. So if you haven't already done so, you might like to settle yourself comfortably for meditation. Slowly allow your eyes to grow heavy and droop until your eyes are gently closed. And you might adjust your body into a completely comfortable position. And if you're meditating to help you sleep better, even just starting out with a meditation first before settling into a sleeping position is generally the best way to relax yourself. So when we breathe in a sense of peace. And when we breathe out, we might recognize a progressive drowsiness that pulls our body down into our supporting cushions or mattress. And for now, we keep our awareness on our breathing, breathing in with ease, no tension, no trying, just a natural easiness in and out. We may notice that when we breathe out, with each breath we feel a little more relaxed. So we let our breath travel down to the full extent of our lungs, filling our lungs right up. We might hold the breath at the deepest point just for a moment, noting the position of this point before letting it flow out as we exhale. We connect with the relaxed, easy feeling as we return to our normal rhythm of breathing. And at this point you might imagine that the ceiling and the roof of the building where we're meditating, together with all the clouds, gradually disappears to reveal a starry night sky. A beautiful night sky that is completely clear, with the full moon softly lighting its own corner of the sky. And on this magical, peaceful night, although you are alone, but you feel safe beneath the velvety calmness of the night sky. Noticing the multitude of twinkling stars shining down, with the darkness of the night sky blanketing you in warmth and peace. And you may be aware of the myriad stars in the night sky shining down on you. Allowing any tensions in your body to melt away with the starlight as you become one with that starlight, as if there were no separation between you and the galaxy around you. Picking up on that starlight now, we allow it to dissolve and melt away every remaining ounce of tension stored up from the day that we've left behind. We let those leftover tensions gradually melt away as the sensation of our deepening relaxation begins to wash through every muscle and nerve, as that starlight moves down into every part of our body, bringing with it a sense of inner calm. So we let that sense of relaxation move us down and down into serenity, into a soothing sense of relaxation. And at this point we allow that tide of relaxation to move down from the crown of our head, across our scalp, crossing our hairline and flowing like a tide of warmth or a wave of pure relaxation down through the softening muscles of our forehead, relaxation that spreads softly across our eyelids, relaxing all the tiny eye muscles there, gradually alleviating any tension in the smaller muscles and nerves of our face, through our cheeks, around our nose and mouth. The tide of relaxation makes its way all the way down through the jaw, down through our throat, the muscles at our neck, as the tensions drain out of our head, through the upper vertebrae, down through the neck muscles, as we welcome in a sense of spaciousness, untangling any tension in the tendons of our shoulders or shoulder blades, and we let all these wonderfully pure sensations of total release work their way down through our chest, into our lungs, breathing freely and calmly as we transition towards our most relaxed state. And now relaxing our upper arms, letting the relaxation flow past our elbows, through our forearms, to our wrists and hands, melting away into the sublime and restful sensation of ease. As more and more parts of your body absorb the calming, soothing sensation that we pick up from the starlight. Meanwhile, the sense of relaxation continues to flow downward through our body with a sense of healing purity through the whole of our torso. And we sense serenity and safety moving down with that sense of comfort down through our back, through our core, especially the muscles across our tummy, with each new breath. And this awareness continues to bring a sense of healing peace that perfuses us with a soothing light of relaxation down through our legs, gently cleansing us of every tension and every care. With an immense sense of inner calm, that flow of relaxation continues down past both of our knees, into our lower legs, and along the entire length of our feet, relaxing us so completely that the pleasing sensations of ease and comfort reach the soles of our feet and all 10 resting toes. And by this point we'll find that the sense of relaxation has spread to every resting fiber of our being, every reposing nerve and cell throughout our body. And as we are now resting completely and have embodied that sense of relaxation, in turn we can move our attention to making sure our mind is relaxed. So we allow the same sense of starlight to disperse our conscious thoughts, dissipating them like clouds before a breeze, leaving the space in our mind for us to relax fully. For any issues that seem too big for the starlight to dissolve, like a personal backpack full of stones, we permit ourselves to finally put this down and take that weight off our mind, as if each one of those stones represented something that happened any time in your near or distant past, any anger, negativity, or regrets. So while softening any attachments, we may feel that we're removing each stone one by one from the backpack, taking a moment to realize the weight of each, and then carefully placing them to one side until not one single stone remains for us to carry, leaving us feeling emotionally unburdened and unencumbered. Because right now all we need to do is surrender ourselves into that rejuvenating sense of inner space in order to rest the mind, as we allow the thoughts in the mind to fade like a memory, fading away into the unlimited inner space, while feeling at one with the present moment. We might cast our mind back to previous meditations where we have put our mind in touch with a sense of deep relaxation, sense of replenishment in our awareness, picking up on the feeling and bringing it into the here and now. We find thoughts of the day replaying themselves like a movie on repeat in our mind. You simply take a mental note before slowly releasing them. And if at any point we feel overwhelmed by the thoughts or overwhelmed by the feelings, we simply remember our anchor, the contact of the mind with that special point at the center of ourselves. If any sounds break through into our peaceful bubble, then we just let them flow on by. And at this point we turn our attention to our visualization to help us remain mindful and reach beyond the events of the day. With our awareness, we connect our calming mind with a sense of centeredness. Imagining with our mind's eye a soft and resplendent starlight or a full moon illuminating us from the inside, as if our body were just an empty structure with a gossamer thin outline. And for a moment we slowly internalize the awareness of the mind and let it rest inside, softly and gently, within the empty space of our body. We locate the mind slowly and softly. There's no need for us to rush our awareness at all. We just let the feeling become soft and still, somewhere in the general area of our abdomen. And in practice, if it feels more comfortable, then anywhere else inside the body. We let the awareness remain there for the time being, with the lightness of a tiny feather floating down from the sky to touch upon a water surface, so light that it doesn't even disturb the mirror-like stillness. For now we maintain this soft awareness of the mind inside the space of the body, comfortably and continuously. To keep the mind in place, we might visualize an image of an everyday object like the sun, the full moon, or a shining star, whatever we feel the most comfortable with. We let the image remain in the mind naturally, so that nothing else will have the chance to interrupt, while retaining a sense of comfort and without worrying about the passing time. If our visualization leads to discomfort, we can simply reapply the mind more gently at any time. And if distractions appear, we just bring our mind back to the visualization until our mind starts to feel more settled. If there are thoughts still remaining in the mind, we do our best to ignore them. If ignoring them seems ineffective, instead we can silently repeat that traditional mantra, hearing the sound of the words Samma Arahang, Samma Arahang, Samma Arahang, over and over again, as we maintain our mind in meditation for a few more moments in silence. But we have to accept that letting go of the content of the mind is not always easy. But it needs to begin with a sense of willingness. So as we move through the rest of this practice, we need to be patient and compassionate with ourselves, regarding the practice as one of letting go, as one of softening our attitudes, or just as an unfolding journey. So we continue with our meditation in this way, calming our mind down towards the center by maintaining that gentle focus at the center of ourselves for a few more moments in silence until we come to the appropriate time. We continue to keep our mind on track at the center of the body the whole of the time. If we find our mind slipping away onto other things, each time we realize, we just bring our mind back again to the center of the body as before. If our inner object disappears, we can conjure up a new one. But if it changes, we just follow it in its new form, observing the way in which the inner object transforms and evolves, with no need for us to change it back again. We continue in this way lightly and gently, just for a few more moments in silence, until we come to the appropriate time. as we light the candles in the outside world, the little flames that we kindle together, each flame coming together to make a little symbol of enlightenment. We can bring the same brightness back inside ourselves with a sense of goodwill towards ourselves first of all, illuminating us from the inside, to bring a sense of self-compassion and empathy that starts with ourselves. Even the sense of not being too hard on ourselves can be quite liberating for many who constantly feel quick to judge themselves at every point. Often to the extent that they leave no space within the mind to actually change in the way that they would wish. So out of acceptance comes forth a space of change within our lives. Sense of space that comes with that sense of inner light. And as we breathe gently, breathing with a sense of intentionality, we can allow that sense of inner space and light to spread outwards from our center, beyond the space of our human body, like an aura or a halo that spreads to those around us, which may mean the people in our midst, the sentient beings all around us, in ever-widening circles, spreading outwards with a sense of compassion and empathy for all those living beings, starting with those closest to us, either physically or at heart, and spreading ever wider with a sense of goodwill for all, and empathy for any suffering that others might experience, and also a wish to help others move beyond that suffering. Extending it in ever-widening circles outwards to the whole neighborhood, outwards to the whole borough and county, neighbouring counties, whole of England, or the whole of the country in which we are sitting for meditation, to the very borders, across the borders, to the whole of the continent in which we are located, and extending to all the living beings therein, without exception. With a sense that all living beings have their own blind spots, shortcomings, sources of suffering in their lives, to greater or lesser extents. But with our goodwill, we extend the wish that they overcome those sources of suffering. Reach towards happiness and harmony and peace in life. Extending this outwards to all the continents of the world, across the entire face of this planet. With good wishes for the world as a whole. With the wish that all living beings in this planet, whether on the land, in the air or in the sea, be touched by our sense of empathy and compassion. That those living beings live together in harmony. That world peace become a reality within our own lifetimes. We can extend our loving kindness in this way, lightly and gently. Just as we can extend that sense of loving kindness for particular loved ones of ours, for those who we know are going through tough times, for those for whom we feel a particular debt of gratitude, for those living or even for those who have already passed, with the trust that our purity of intention can extend across the gulfs of space and time to reach them wherever they are to be found. We extend our loving kindness in this way for the last few moments of our practice together until we come to the appropriate time. Pe Puttha Palapatha Pacekanan Chayam Palang Arantanan Chate Chena Arakam Bandami Sapaso Sapaputtha Nupavena Sapatama Nupavena Sapasangha Nupavena Sattha Soti Bhavantu Te. So if you'd like to come gently to the end of your meditation for this evening, you can gradually open your eyes again. If you feel at all uncomfortable, then slowly try changing to a more comfortable position before gradually finishing your practice. Doing very well so far, I think, this evening. Managed to light the candles without setting yourselves on fire, which is a little bit better than this time last year, if I remember correctly. And we come full circle to the full moon of October again. Actually, the full moon in its full glory was actually yesterday, 10th of October, but we're celebrating it on the 11th to try to space out our activities a little bit. And generally the moon at this time in the year is known as the hunter moon, and although hunting is not something we particularly support from a Buddhist perspective, it is also known as the blood moon, the leaf falling moon, the moon where the birds fly south, the moon where the wind shakes off the leaves, the changing season moon, and in Old England it was known as the winter full moon or winter filleth, and is sometimes considered to be the full moon that marks the start of winter. And according to the old Farmer's Almanac, if October brings heavy frosts and winds, then will January and February be mild. So it looks like we have not got a mild February and January coming by the looks of things. And often the spiritual meaning of the moon at this time of the year is for focus on internal work and self-reflection, the time of the darker time of the year, but also for acceptance and welcome with open arms and spirit. It's also a time to think of our own mental well-being and of those for whom we care, and in this respect it's an amazing season for us to meditate on occasion of the full moon and to soak up the good vibes generally. The 10th of October is also has been commemorated as the World Mental Health Day, and it's a time to raise awareness and to mobilize efforts in support of mental health around the world. And it's an opportunity for all the stakeholders working with mental health issues to talk about their work and what more needs to be done to make mental health care a reality for people around the world. The tagline that goes with it is, "I'm not okay, you're not okay, but with the knowledge and help of all the stakeholders, it will be okay." So in recent years the tagline has been, "Let's invest in mental health." Sometimes it's, "Let's make mental health a reality." And this year it is, "Let's make mental health and well-being a priority." And especially on the back end of the pandemic, then as many as 1 in 8 people globally were living with some sort of mental disorder. And at the same time, the skills and the funding available have always been in quite short supply. Thinking about how hard it is to find a dentist these days, I can imagine how much harder it must be for people with quite a exotic condition by comparison. So there is a sort of realization and maybe an increasing empathy towards those with anxious or depressive disorders, which were at quite high level during the pandemic itself. And especially the things contributing to mental health problems generally are the number of people in the world today who are displaced for one reason or another, with as many as 84 million people worldwide forcibly displaced since last year. So the sense of commitment needed for mental health generally as individuals, communities and governments is sometimes there's always never enough done. So it's all very well having a mental health festival or celebration, but some practical ways which are suggested to make it more than just a nice thing to think about are to encourage the sharing of experiences. Mental Health Day hasn't been mentioned explicitly from what I've seen in the last few days' newspapers, but a lot of prominent people in the media have actually come forward and talked about their own experiences. I've noticed that even if they haven't been talking about them on the occasion of World Mental Health Day. You will see that recently in the newspapers. Sparking conversations on social media is also a good way to raise awareness, and there's even an official hashtag for World Mental Health Day. You can check in with your own mental health, which I think you probably are already doing, avoiding stress and burnout by joining meditation here at the center. And you can also make a pledge to be kinder to yourself. Sound like a good idea? Don't be so hard on yourself. Make more time for yourself, or be more charitable towards toxic people or distractions in your life. You can practice self-care, exercising regularly, eating better, journaling, seeking professional help if you can find it. And gratitude practices are also very helpful as a way to turn negative situations into something more positive. Seems to when that disappeared off the bottom there, which is to reach out to loved ones who may be facing their own mental health struggles. Anyone you can think of. Simply asking how they are and reminding them that you are there for them can go a long way to contributing to people's well-being. And there are lots of ways to connect with family and friends, whether it's just inviting them for a coffee or picking up the phone or even reaching out on social media. From the more traditional Buddhist point of view, this time of the year is also significant. As I said, we're fairly busy yesterday, and the special picture you can see there is not some sort of dragon dance, but it is something called a naga, which is like a big serpent thing. But apparently it marks the end of the Buddhist Lent season of 3 months, when the monks must stay put in their own temple and not go around too much. Monks are now free to travel again, and many years ago, when the Buddha was still alive, he visited to his deceased mother in a heaven realm and came back with a lot of very impressive splendor, and even some of the animals like this one living at the bottom of the river, called nagas, were so impressed that the only way they could express their amazement was to shoot what are known as fireballs up from the bottom of the river. And if you go to certain places on the border between Thailand and Laos at this time of the year, sometimes you can still see the bubbles of fireballs coming up out of the river, for real. Yeah, they're not just gas. Yeah, so this is something you can see in the Mekong River, if ever you have the chance to go there just on this day of the year. Yes, it's very surprising. So that's the Buddhist tie-in for this full moon. But yes, the monks were supposed not to travel because in the old days, when the monks moved around the country, they trampled the rice seedlings that were trying to grow and earned people's derision for destroying the crops. So the Buddha said the monks should stay put and concentrate on their own practice for 3 months to let the rice grow up strong and avoid criticism from the farmers. But at the end of the living together for 3 months in those temples, there is a special ceremony performed by the monks, which fits in with the empathy and self-cultivation, which is called inviting others to give criticism. And it's a little ceremony where even the most senior monk in the temple must invite the junior monks to offer any criticism that they wouldn't dare to give at another time of the year. Yeah? So it's a little bit like an open season on criticism, just for one day, which is allowed at the end of the 3 months of the rainy season. So it's said that a person who can gain wisdom needs to be a very humble person, because you need to be humble enough to accept criticism from others, not like maybe certain politicians who are not open to listening to anyone's advice or especially criticism, but monks are trained, or at least forced to do this at least once a year, to be humble. And there is a story from the scriptures about the right-hand disciple of the Buddha, who was a monk called Sariputta. And he was very well renowned for wisdom and being able to teach in a very eloquent way to all the other monks. But one day, when he was at the end of the rainy season in this way, he had what would be known in the present day as a wardrobe malfunction, which was the special skirt thing which the monks wear. It was hanging down at one side. Yeah, it was only held in place by a sort of piece of rope. And there was a very young novice, only 7 years old or something, and came and tugged on one side of his robe and said, "Excuse me, sir, did you know that one corner of your waistcloth is hanging down?" And the very senior monk immediately paid respect to the novice for speaking up. And you think, why? Because he accepted the knowledge from that novice as if the novice had been his teacher on that day, for seeing something that he had overlooked himself. So really this is the mark of a person who is growing in wisdom, that they will accept new knowledge from anyone, no matter how humble or how junior. And for the same reason, at the end of 3 months, then the monks have to gather together and they use the words, "If there is anything you have seen, heard, or suspected that I have transgressed in the past 3 months, whether it's going to be verbal action, physical action, or even mental action, please feel free to give me feedback, advice, or criticism, so that I can be better in my practice from here on." So that's a tradition that the monks have. In the Dhammakaya tradition, they sometimes call this practice as the pointing out of treasure. Yeah, call it treasure instead of like roasting. Because if we are stuck to fixed view, then that we are already good enough, then it becomes a sort of complacency. And in reality, then no one is perfect. But a lot of the times we have things that we need to overcome, and if the what other people think, whether it may be right or wrong, it may not all be right, because some people just like criticizing people for the sake of it, but at least it's out there and is something for you to reflect on. And in general, monks living together, like any sort of community, it is always fraught with tension unless people are open. Everyone thinks, oh, it's okay to do this or that, it's not bothering anyone, but in fact it is bothering people, but they just don't want to mention it. But in fact it is sort of creating tension in that community. So part of letting go of a sense of ego is being open to how we might affect others as well. So it's a golden rule of treating others as we might like to be treated ourselves. And by stepping in to offer criticism, a person is taking a big risk. They're going to get their head bitten off or whatever by the person who hears them, especially if we have a slightly grumpy demeanor. Yes. So to keep relationships healthy, it's good to be open about what might actually be on our mind, instead of tiptoeing around people on eggshells all the time. So you might want to try it for yourself. You don't need to kneel down with robes on to do this, but simply to offer people a chance to speak up on occasion. It's a very way of making sure that there aren't things which are is to air things which otherwise may sort of grind people down over the years. For example, if monks are older, then they tend to get a little bit more, keep themselves to themselves, or they might snore more or whatever. So, and they wake up in the middle of the night and disturb everyone. So old monks have got certain sorts of problems. The young monks have got certain sort of problems of their own, because they like to talk all the time, and they like to talk excitedly, and they like to go to bed late. So unless there's an airing of the way one side sees the other or whatever, then there's a potential for conflict. So this is to keep sort of community relations going. And the same thing may happen in a family as well. So it may be something where a first step towards empathy is sort of acknowledging that other people share different sorts of natures and outlooks on the world, and just as you wouldn't want anyone to hurt you, even by the things which they think doesn't have any effect on others, but out of a sense of empathy, to be able to be open. So full moon today comes with a sort of little tryout for you at home, maybe to invite criticism from others as a way to hear something which people wouldn't normally dare to share with you. But once you get the criticism, the second part of the homework is to reflect on it. What you hear may be true or it may not be true, but at least give it a fair, give yourself a good opportunity to think about it in detail, to see whether there is any truth in what you have heard from those other people as well. But you probably don't need to go to the lengths of putting up an open message on Twitter or Facebook, inviting for people to put all that criticism on there. That might be going, you might get more than you bargained for. So for today, I have a few items of publicity. For those of you who are new to meditation, I would encourage you to meditate further at home, maybe 20 minutes a day if you can manage that. It's a good place to start, and if you can establish a daily habit, then from 20 minutes you can gradually build on that as you get more settled. Some days will be better than others, of course, but on balance you see a general improvement in the quality of your meditation in the time you have available. Here if you feel a little bit hazy about the meditation technique, you can resort to MindGem, which is an app you can download onto your mobile phone, and it will give you lots of reminders of guidance for meditation from different teachers within our own tradition. And you can set a timer on that as well to meditate for a particular length of time. Here we normally have classes every Tuesday and Thursday evening. On Tuesdays it's normally a 30-minute meditation. On Thursdays it's normally a 45-minute meditation. And online, although you can see a lot of the talks and meditations from here on YouTube and Facebook from the temple, there is also a Zoom where it's a little bit more interactive, where you can join on a Saturday between 7 and 8, and that is conducted by monks around Europe, although I believe that this month there are 2 sessions where there are Saturdays missing from the schedule because of the monks travelling about after getting the freedom from being cooped up for 3 months. The next full moon meditation will be on Tuesday the 8th of November, and because there's a traditional Thai celebration called Loikotong, where they float away the candle rafts, the theme will be floating away your worries, and the fish in the pond will have to put up with the floating rafts as they did last year. But you can join that either in person or online on that Tuesday evening. For Katina, that's coming up on the 23rd of October. It's a robe offering ceremony, but it's the ceremony where we have the biggest number of people attending an event. We expect to have about 400 this year. So last year we were still wearing masks and stuff. We had about 200 even with masks. So we hope people to be coming back at full strength. You might want to participate. It's quite a fun event with lots of food going, meditation. Most of the ceremonies will be conducted in 2 languages, so you won't be completely set adrift surrounded by all those Thai people. We're also looking for volunteers to help out with various things. Some of the details of that we've already imparted to some of you who joined the workshop last Sunday. But if you would like to know more, you might want to come along on the evening of Friday the 21st of October to help us distribute little flyers to invite and warn our neighbours that they may be things going on the Sunday, and also so that would be about 5 o'clock onwards. And on the 22nd of October, the Saturday, there'll be a lot of preparations, and if you're able to attend from 2 o'clock in the afternoon onwards, we'll have a little rehearsal as well for anyone who's got a hands-on role as a volunteer who wants to actually walk around the grounds to see how the procession will work out for the Sunday as well. And of course you can also make a donation because the funds raised this year will be going towards building 2 little extra rooms at the front of the building, one for a reception area and one for a children's room play area. Yes. So at this point, I think that's everything I have to share with you. But if you have any questions, comments, or feedback at this point, I'd be very pleased to hear from you. So for the 23rd, if you would actually like to attend on that day, please make sure you are here in time for 9:30 in the morning. There will be a meditation for about an hour, after which time there will be an almsgiving ceremony about 10:30, where everyone goes outside in the wonderful weather that we are sure to have on that day, and the monks will go in a procession, about 20 monks, and there's a giving of alms food, led by a bunch of people dressed up as angels. After that, it will be 20 different sorts of food available for free in the tents outside until about 12:30. So that might be the time of the day you want to aim for, especially if you're bringing along your family. And then afterwards, there's the formal part of the ceremony where the robes are offered. There's a procession which starts about 12:30, where people will go 3 times around this building with the robes, and then they're actually offered to the monks from about 1 in the afternoon until about 3 o'clock. A little bit more meditation. Monks will give some talks, blessings, and it will end about 3:30.